Hello, and welcome to another episode of the FemiNinja Project. And I have a fascinating and fantastic guest with me today. His name is Herman Petrick. He is an energy healer and spiritual guide whose mission is to help people connect to who they really are through energy clearing and spiritual healing. He has over a decade of experience in holistic wellness and transformation, honing his unique abilities in energy healing while residing in New Zealand. Herman developed techniques for clearing negative energies, closing dark portals, and challenging healing frequencies to promote harmony and possibility. He specializes in remote energy clearings to help clients reset and connect with their true selves. Herman, thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show.
Yes, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Certainly. Your story is just fascinating and the work that you do. And of course, I had a lot of questions popping in my head as I was reading your bio. But why don't you just begin by telling the listeners how you got involved in this type of work?
Yeah, it was never a plan of mine, not that I was aware of, to do this type of work. I just was in the professional world, going about my business, and I just realized I had this gift where I can connect with people and places and remove what I call energetic parasites from the people and the places. And it started. I had moved to New Zealand, and was in a house, a friend's house, where she was having all kinds of issues with spirits or ghosts or
Hmm.
demons, whatever you want to call it. They're just causing problems in her house, and she told me about it. And for some reason, when I was in the house, I just decided I'm going to tell these things they need to leave. And I did. And I didn't really tell her about it. And then a few weeks later, I was talking to her and asked, "Hey, how's your house?" And she's like, "It's really weird. After you left, I haven't had any problems." And so I was like, "Oh." So then I said I did this, and it worked effectively. So then I started researching a little bit about, exorcisms, demonology, all the crazy stuff,
Hmm.
and was able to just realize I can do that type of work without any fear and with ease.
Hmm.
And I really wanted to test it out on someone. And I was talking to some friends and said, I felt like I can help people that have sleeping issues,
Hmm.
because a lot of times we're disturbed in our sleep. And the people I were talking to thought I was kind of crazy. In fact, they called me a crazy Yank, is what they called me. And yeah, and I said, "Well, look, let me work on someone you know. I'm sure you know someone that has a sleeping issue because it's a big issue." And they're like,
Hmm.
"Yes, our daughter, she's 24 years old. She lives in Perth, Australia. Ever since she was 14, she has nightmares every night, sleepwalks, gets about 3 to 5 hours of sleep a night, is just tormented. We've taken her to
Wow.
several doctors. They can't figure it out. She's been on sleeping pills. It doesn't work." I said, "Okay, let me do it, but don't tell her I'm going to do the work because I don't want you saying it's a placebo effect. I don't want her
Hmm.
knowing. I just want to see the results." And I said, "Just check in with her after a week or two and see how she's doing." And a couple weeks later, they were just shocked. Like, "We can't believe it. She's no more nightmares, sleeping 8 to 10 hours a night. She's a completely
Wow.
different person. How is this possible? What did you do?" And just question, 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 even to the point where the mother, who was in her 60s, I asked her, I'm like, "How about you? How was your sleep?" And she's like, "I've been on sleeping pills for 20 plus years and I haven't taken them the last 2 weeks and I've been sleeping great." And I'm like, "So who's the crazy Yank after all?" And that's really how it started. And but they had told some friends, and it was a small community, like in a provincial New Zealand town,
Hmm.
and the friends reached out to me. They had a 5-year-old boy that was struggling with nightmares, and ever since he was two, wouldn't sleep in his own room, wouldn't even walk down the hall to go to the bathroom by himself because he just had all this fear. And the parents called me, and I said, "Oh yeah, okay." They were referred by these people, and I didn't even have a business at that time. I was just, it was like a
Hmm.
hobby. And they're like, "Well,
Hmm.
can you work with our son? And I explained the process, and they kind of looked at me like I was crazy
Hmm.
because I said, you guys don't participate. I just do the work, and then you just give me your feedback. And so I did it, and like instantly, the boy, no more nightmares, no more fear, completely changed. And they were just blown away. And then they were telling people, and then I had all these parents calling me with sleeping issues with their little kids, babies, toddlers, teenagers, you name it. And
Wow.
so then I thought, I should create a website. And so that's what I did. This was in 2012.
Hmm.
Created a website, wrote all the content myself, came up with a lot of it just from life experience. And
Hmm.
it's the same website I have today.
Hmm.
I left my job and started doing this full time. And I work with people all over the world. My marketplace, the biggest market is the US, but
Hmm.
I work with people in the UK, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, like Hong Kong, Singapore, Dubai, Abu Dhabi. So I cover a pretty wide scope so my market is pretty big, and people just come to my website, request my work, and that's all there is to it.
So I do want to mention that yes, it's a great website because of course I did check it out and it is
Oh,
full of
nice.
wonderful information. So I'm just going to encourage the listeners that, once you're done listening to this, please do go to Herman's website. A lot of great information. But I just have to ask you, did you ever consider naming your business the Crazy Yank?
That's a good that's a good question. So I my business I started out, I named it Global Energy Clearing because I'm working globally. And
Right.
I recently changed it a few years ago to my name. A Crazy Yank would have been a good one, but I still kind of operate under Global Energy Clearing.
Mm-hmm.
But I changed it because I was having problems with my Google ads. I was starting to get pretty big on there, and people started using my company name as keywords for their own businesses. Some very
Oh.
big conglomerates where if you would Google Global Energy Clearing, my company name, all these other companies would come up first. And
Mm.
it was costing me a lot more money. The bidding strategy went up for my company. So I was like, people are stealing my business name as a healing modality. So what can I do? Well, I'll just change it to my name, hermanpetrick.com. And so I
Mm-hmm.
shifted the website. But if you go to my old website, it redirects you to this one. So globalenergyclearing.com directs you. So that's it was never meant to be my own name, but I
Mm-hmm.
just thought it would be hard for people to steal my name as a modality. So that's why I
Mm.
did it. Um, but Crazy Yank would have been a really good one.
That
I
would have
wish
been
I thought of
awesome.
that because that they probably wouldn't have used that for a modality. But
Yeah, I couldn't imagine anybody wanting to take that from you because, yeah, but I think it's great, and I've never been to New Zealand, but I know a lot of people who have, and I've talked to a few people. I've interviewed them who are from New Zealand, and they seem to have a really keen sense of humor. So
yeah,
I think,
yeah, they do. And I've been here. I moved here in 2009, but I left at the end of 2015 and spent some time traveling around Asia, Southeast Asia, and then in Taiwan. I wanted to go to Taiwan for some bizarre reason, and then moved back to the States to Portland and spent another like probably 8 7 8 years in Portland, and then I just moved back to New Zealand in 23. So I've not been here the whole time, so I'm kind of in and out of New Zealand, but it's a very nice spot. It's calm, it's peaceful. It's an island, 5 million people is the population. So it's pretty it's island time really.
hmm.
It's nice.
Well, as before we started recording, and before I hit record, I was telling you that I moved to a new state, from Colorado to Missouri, and my goodness, the amount of change and adjustment that we're still dealing with. It's only been 6.5 months, and I think we're
Mhm.
adapting quite well. But there was so much change. I didn't realize it would be that dramatic. The last time I moved I moved from Pennsylvania to Colorado. I was 21 at the time, so I didn't remember any of the all the details and stuff. But man, it was just so overwhelming. I could not imagine going to a new country. What was that like?
Mm. Yeah, well, they speak English barely. Like the accent, like when I first moved here, they would say something and I'd be like,
Excuse me, let me get my translator. That's funny.
yeah. But I got it sussed out now. I got it down. And when I was here, the first time I was here for about 7 years, and I felt like I sounded exactly like them, which
Hmm.
apparently I didn't. But to me, in my mind, I didn't have an accent. It was kind of funny.
Hmm. That's
But
really
I'll be talking to someone, and everyone will stop and look, like, "Where's this guy from?" It's kind
well,
of different.
that's so funny because I was just telling a group of ladies it's about a week or so ago that, people weren't that friendly when I moved from Pennsylvania, to Colorado, and they didn't like, too many new people coming in. And I mean, back then, place was wide open. But I
Small,
says,
yeah.
yeah, very, very small. And it was like, well, they weren't very welcoming, and they really didn't like me very much because I talked too fast and had a funny accent because that Pittsburghian accent is very precise, and we do
Hmm.
talk fast.
Yeah. I had moved from when I was about 18, 19, I moved to Boise, Idaho
Oh,
from Portland, and that was a big change because Boise was very small.
uh-huh.
This was in the like 96 or something. So Boise
Hmm.
was pretty small. And it was a little bit of a culture shock, but it was really nice. And, I have a couple daughters and they were pretty much raised in Idaho. We were there
Hmm.
for about 11 years and then moved to Salt Lake City,
Hmm.
Utah. And I'm a big mountain skier, so Utah was
Hmm.
always on my map.
Hmm.
And so we are in Salt Lake for about 5 years total. And it was another culture shock going from Boise to Salt Lake City.
Oh, I'll bet. Yeah.
Salt Lake is a little more, religious with the
Hmm.
LDS church's
Hmm.
influence on everything. So
How was the
it
skiing
was
there?
pretty good. Like Alta is to me is one of the top places.
Hmm.
There's two places that are like on the top of my list, and it's Jackson Hole, Wyoming,
Hmm.
and Alta, Utah. And of course, Alta is in a canyon. It's called Little Cottonwood Canyon, and it's at the top. But right below it is another resort called Snowbird, which is massive, and the
Wow.
two are now connected.
Hmm.
But it's just a beautiful place, and I was from my driveway, I timed it to get to Alta was a 15-minute drive. And that was the beauty of Salt Lake City was you can be in the city and you're a half hour away from, you know, a half a dozen top ski resorts,
Right.
and like Alta is one of the top in the world. They change the rankings every year. I don't pay
Hmm.
attention to it anymore,
Hmm.
but yeah, it's pretty good spot if you like to ski.
Hmm. Yeah, well, I remember when after I first moved here, and of course I was a skier, I learned how to ski on what we used to call bulletproof ice in Pennsylvania because it was just horrible, the conditions. And it would only take like an hour and a half to get, from Denver to any of the ski resorts.
Hmm.
And now it takes a really long time just getting up to the mountains. It's just ridiculous. The traffic is just outrageous. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and I feel like Salt Lake City it has the advantage over Denver because it's all right there. It's just
right.
right there.
Yeah.
It's easy to get to, but
Yeah. Okay, now back to your energy work because I really do find this fascinating, especially not going to call you a crazy yank, but did you get resistance at first from people
oh,
who, it's like,
hmm.
well, I need help, but, is this for real?
The resistance I got was from family and friends. Like
Hmm.
this can't be a business. No one's going to pay for this. That was the biggest resistance was and having support behind me to do it. There
Hmm.
wasn't a lot of support because it's just very different.
Hmm.
And I grew up in a very Christian household, so
Hmm.
I was a little outside that that, box. But the people that needed my help were very desperate, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're in a position where they're hearing voices, they're severe insomnia or anxiety or depression. And so, and they've tried so many different things. And so I was kind of a last resort, and I was giving everyone a 15-minute conversation before I would work on them. And so I would give them assurance that this is how it works.
Right.
And so I wasn't really, I wasn't soliciting people. People were coming to my website and
Right.
reaching out to me. So it was them reaching out. So there was a little, when I'd have a conversation, there'd be a few people be like, I can't believe this. No, I'm not going to do it. But for the most part, people wanted to give it a try. And my pricing, I didn't want to make it too expensive. So I tried to keep the price very low. And in fact, my price has been about the same since I started. I
Wow.
maybe raised it by $10 about
Mm-hmm.
5, 10 years ago, but it's very, yeah, it's $269 for an individual
Mm-hmm.
and their home,
Mm-hmm.
and $299 for a family and their home. And I've kept those prices like
Mm-hmm.
the same
Mm-hmm.
pretty much for the last close to 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
because I just want to make it affordable. Some people charge thousands of dollars, and
Mm-hmm.
maybe some people are less, but
Mm-hmm.
it's for me, it's not about the money. It's about connecting with people and helping them. But at the same time, I need to charge for the service so that I can make money, so that I can live, so that I can do this and
Right.
impact more people.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but no, there was not a lot of pushback. If someone was skeptical, it's like, okay, thanks for your time. I wish you luck. I mean, there's nothing I can do for someone that's skeptical.
Right.
Now, a lot of people I work with, like the mother would reach out and I would work on the family, and the
Mm-hmm.
family wouldn't know about it and they would see the results. So it wasn't like something that people had to engage with. So, or
Mm-hmm.
someone would say, "Hey, can I pay to have my sister or my friend?" And,
Mm-hmm.
and then they would just not tell the person and see the results. So, because the work is about removing what I call energetic parasites, which are,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people have different names for them, spirit entities, demonic energies,
Mm-hmm.
jinns, whatever you want to say. There's probably a dozen different types of names, and I just classify them all as parasites because what they do is when they attach to people, they're parasites because they feed on our energy, they feed on our fear and our anxiety. But when they attach to people, they manipulate our thoughts and our emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And the manipulation creates the fear and it creates the anxiety. So they're creating their food system, so to speak. So that's why I just classify them as parasites. And so by removing those, it typically clears the negative thoughts and it changes we're guided through our life by our thoughts and our
Mm-hmm.
emotions.
Mm-hmm.
So imagine if our thoughts and emotions are being manipulated on a regular basis,
Which
how
they
are we
kind
being
of
guided?
are, even by society and the
Yeah,
media
but
and all of
the
that.
it's programming, right? We're programmed from the day we're born. Do
Mm-hmm.
this, do that. And then we go to school and we're use your mind, and then we focus on memory and
Mm-hmm.
not connection to who we are. And we're all individuals, and when we're really all connected. And
Mm-hmm.
so the work that I do is I remove the parasites first, and
Mm-hmm.
then I just call it a reset, like restarting your computer when it's running
Mm-hmm.
slow. I go in and I cut a bunch of connections, cord
Mm-hmm.
connections, soul ties. I remove traumas, stuck traumas. There's about a dozen different things I do from a healing standpoint. And a lot of it's
Mm-hmm.
just about getting your energy to flow, because
Mm-hmm.
when our energy's blocked and not flowing, that's when we start to run into physical issues. And our
Mm-hmm.
body has this amazing ability to heal itself, but
Mm-hmm.
if we're constantly in flow, but we're not. And we're so disconnected from who we are because we're constantly being manipulated and
Mm-hmm.
programmed. So my work, the key to my work is the key result is helping the person connect to their true authentic self. And I do that by clearing the parasites, getting the flow going, and then it's up to the person, where they want to go with it. But
Mm-hmm.
when you work on your inner balance, things tend to be a lot easier in your life. So,
Mm-hmm. I'm fascinated by something you said yeah, about, being raised in a, Christian household, and, so was I, Eastern European. Um, I would have thought, I mean, I can see how a lot of people would think that, oh no, that's just voodoo. But even, my father was from Eastern Europe, and all my, grandparents and all some of the stories that they would tell, and some of the experiences that they had when they were in Eastern Europe. And it was almost like, well, that's a little scary. That sounds a little like, I mean, I can see how people might think that, but haven't we all seen The Exorcist?
Hmm. Yeah, the it's exorcisms have been going on for centuries.
Right.
Now, whether they're right or wrong, only the person that's getting the healing knows.
Mm-hmm.
But the work I do isn't, I mean, it's similar to like an exorcism, but it's not. It's
Right.
gentle. It's not holding someone down. And I've worked with thousands of people, and I have so many stories of what people have gone through and the relief. I have some really extreme cases, and then I have some really lightweight cases. The sleeping and issues and nightmares and anxiety and depression, those are really easy. There's some other
Mm-hmm.
stuff that's a lot harder.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of we think, well, none of this is real, like curses and hexes and black magic, and that is very prevalent in our world. And the programming is probably one of the biggest thing, the symbolism, the symbols that are all around us, and all the logos for all the big companies. And it's just everywhere we look, there's a symbol telling us what we should be thinking and what we should be doing. Buy this, consume, consume, consume.
Mm-hmm.
That's how it works. So, but yeah, I have some pretty interesting stories. But
Mm-hmm.
in fact, I'm writing a book now, and I'll have a few of the stories in the book. So
Oh, yay. Oh, good. I can't wait to, you're going to have to reconnect with me when the book is
yeah, for
published
sure.
so I can help promote it and we can talk about it on the show. But
Yeah,
this is just as
sounds
you were
good.
talking too, I was remembering, every single year, and it was right around January 7th, because we used to celebrate Christmas on the 25th as well as January 7th, because that's the Eastern European calendar. And every year, the priest would come and bless the house. I mean, he would do that every year, so it was just kind of
Hmm.
like a ritualistic type of thing. And I remember when I had my own office in Denver, and this was probably about maybe 15 years ago, and I had two clients that I don't know, something wasn't quite right. They were into some things that were a little bit weird, and it was just uncomfortable, but whatever. And they came into, my office one day and they said, "It smells really weird in here. It smells like cat urine." And I said, "Well, no, there's no cat urine." And they were like, "Yeah, there's something really weird going on here." And then they were saying some things that I needed to do. And I thought, no, I don't think so. Well, then I was telling this story to a girlfriend of mine who is very, very Catholic. And she said, it sounds like they're dealing in the dark arts. What you need to do is get some holy oil and you need to, bless the doorways of your office. And I'm going, well, okay, that doesn't seem so far fetched because, I was raised with that. And so I did. And I did, and I got it, and I did exactly what she said. And when they came for their session the following week, they had to leave. They says, we can't work out. We can't, no, there's something here. There's something here. Something is, and I'm like, okay, see ya. Bye.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I've had a few people that I've interacted with just on the street or casually, and they get very fidgety around me, like they're crawling out of their skin, and it's like, ooh, I know what they got have going on. So
See, I usually get that reaction when I start talking about my martial art. People start getting a little, a little uncomfortable, a little itchy or something about that. So the other question I had for you too, though, was because I had not heard this before, the, let me
portal.
see. Yes. So talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, so that's an interesting subject. And so a dark portal is simply a portal where energy comes and goes. So it goes from one realm to another. And a lot of times they're created by design. So when someone's doing worship of some kind, or they create like say an altar and they're doing something to call in spirits or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Someone that uses like a Ouija board as a game a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times will create a portal where the energy can come and go. And so let's say you moved into a new house and recently, and the person that previously that lived there, or even 100 years before, if it's an old house,
Mm-hmm.
was doing some sort of work in that house, spiritual work, black magic, whatever, and they created this energetic flow. It's going to be there until that portal is closed. And what happens is constant flow of this dark energy is coming and going and coming and going. And if you're in that environment for several years, say 10 years plus, it starts to create a mental illness or some sort of craziness in the people that live in the home.
Mm-hmm.
And I found this out just by accident, by just working on people. Because when I started doing my work, it didn't come with a training manual. It was all
Right.
just came from within. It's like, do this, do that. I just started doing. And so I was learning as I was going. And I
Mm-hmm.
ran into a few portals and how I found out was like I would clear someone's energy for them in their home. And I would check in on them daily at random times, and more stuff would be back. And I'm like, why is there more and more and more? And then that's when I discovered what portals were. And then I realized I have to close up and seal those portals. And when I did that, then there would be nothing else in their home. And so, but a lot of times it's created by accident, but a lot of time it's by design. And then there's also around the earth, there's different ley lines or whatever you want to call it, or vortexes where energy just flows. And it's a
Mm-hmm.
lot of times it's just a different type of energy that affects us.
Mm-hmm.
I've had a lot of clients that lived in weird spots and they had this weird energy constantly. There's been a few times where I couldn't fix it, and then the people had to move. It was the land they were on and the ley lines. And
Wow.
I have a friend in New Zealand that works on stuff like that. He works with ley lines, kind of like, I don't know if you remember when people used to do with the sticks where they were divining or whatever.
Right. Yeah.
He would kind of do that from afar and tell them to place copper rods in they'd give them a map of their home and their yard, and he'd tell them to put these copper rods in specific spots in their yard, and it stopped the issue because it changes the energetic flow.
Mm-hmm.
So, but dark portals are a little bit different, but they're usually created through, it could be a place of worship. Like if you have an altar in your home and you're constantly focusing on calling this energy to you, that usually creates a portal.
Mm-hmm. So that would be like the negative energy, or could it be, you can be doing the reverse, having, like an area of
Well,
worship or.
yeah, well, we can think about everything's the same. Energy is energy. There's negative
Mm-hmm.
energy, there's positive energy. There's two polar opposites. It's like, what's the difference between hot and cold? Hot and cold to you might be two different things. It's the
Mm-hmm.
degrees of the scale. And so what is good and what is bad? To me, anything that tries to attach to us is not good. We're an organic energy. Anything that tries to attach to us is what I call an inorganic energy.
Mm-hmm.
So to me, there's a fine line between good and bad. We just simply don't need other energies attaching to us, whether we call them good or whether we call them bad. And sometimes we have loved ones that pass over that try to attach, like as a spirit entity. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not healthy because
Mm-hmm.
that person starts to manipulate the thoughts and the emotions of the host. And so there's really a fine line of the good and bad. But I could say, and I can give you an example if you want of like voodoo versus
Mm-hmm.
do you remember the Pentecostal churches? It was like it's a denomination of the Christian church where they speak in tongues and
Oh,
they
yeah, yeah. Okay. Yeah.
yeah, so what they do at the beginning of the church service, I grew up going to a few of those churches.
Mm-hmm.
They do a lot of worship and praising, and then they're dancing, and then they raise their hands, and then then they're calling on the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit comes in, and then they start speaking in tongues, and you really can't understand what they're saying. Sometimes they're convulsing and falling over, and they're calling in, the Holy Spirit in their place of worship, and they're doing a ritual to bring in that Holy Spirit. And the ritual would be the praising that they're doing. They're congregating, praising, focusing, calling in this spirit. And the Holy Spirit is this beautiful spirit that's meant to heal and so on.
Mhm.
Well, if you look at the history of, what we now call voodoo, which is everyone views as evil, they go out in the wilderness, congregate, they do a ritual of dancing or whatever it is, and they call in a spirit to enter their body, to heal their body. They start convulsing and speaking in different language. Why is that bad and this one good? What's the difference? And so when you look at things without your blinders of beliefs, you can
Mhm.
go, okay, what's really good and what's really bad? Now, did voodoo get a very bad stigma because this was a bigger group, more popular, or this group is better? What's the difference? Is it the same energy? Maybe a slightly different frequency? Is it a bad energy? This is a good energy? Who's to say?
Mhm.
And so when I doing energy work, when I clear people's energy, I don't care what the energy kind is. Like, let's say you have a mosquito on your back, it's a parasite. And I go,
Mhm.
okay, I'm going to get that mosquito off. We're not going to question, why is that mosquito on my back? How long has it been there? Why did it choose me? No,
Mhm.
it's a parasite. It needs to go. Same
Mhm.
thing with these energies. Why do we care what the source is, where it came from? What is it doing there? It's a parasite. It needs to go. And when I clear energies, I don't see a difference in this one or that one. Yeah, there are differences, and to me it's more about quantity. So
Mhm.
someone might have a lot more than the other person, and some of them can affect people differently. Everyone has a different effect. So to me, energy is energy, but we label stuff as negative energy, and because it has a negative impact on us.
Mhm.
I don't know of an energy that would attach to us that has a positive impact. Maybe like a quick healing energy or something, but it doesn't stick around. It's a quick flush. Everything has to be in constant movement. Everything has to be in constant flow. So as long as it's a constant flow, is it negative or is it positive? But when it sticks around and starts manipulating us, it's a problem. And is it manipulating us in a positive way or a negative way? Who's to say? It's a manipulation. We're
Mhm.
supposed to be these sovereign beings and we're supposed to come from our own true higher self, our heart self, but we get manipulated quite easily. And whether it's good or bad, it shouldn't happen. That's my view on energy, whether it's negative, positive. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. Thank you very much for that. And I still now I want to go back to your writing a book.
Yeah. So I, for the last probably 5 to 10 years, I'm like, I need to write a book. I have so many stories. I have so much in here. And this year I decided I'm doing, I mean, I opened I created a title in a Word document and I found it and opened it and it was from 7 years ago. But I had like written one line and I just haven't had time or it wasn't a
Mhm.
priority. And now all of a sudden I'm like, I need to do this. So I'm on chapter 3 now, hoping for 10 chapters. But
Mhm.
the book is going to be roughly 200 pages, 10 chapters. I'm going to talk about, the energies of the body, the
Mhm.
energies around us, how they affect us. And I'll have a few case studies and stories. And really, it's really about getting a message out there, getting my voice
Mhm.
out there for people so that I can make an impact on people.
Mhm.
And it would also give, a little more credibility when someone wants to talk to me. I've written a book. You read my book
Mhm.
first if you want to know. Um, it just gives a little more credibility, and
Mhm.
it's a way to get my voice out there
Mhm.
and have it out there, on a permanent basis. So, but by the end of the year, I'm hoping to have it done. And then obviously I'm writing it myself, then I have to find a publisher but I'll cross
Mhm.
those bridges when they come. First things first, I got to get it written. And I got some good momentum right now, and and every time I talk to someone, I have a new story pop in my head. Oh
Right.
yeah,
Right.
I'm the type of person that when I'm prompted, like if I'm having a conversation like with you, I got all this stuff. But if I'm sitting down and going, okay, I'm gonna write a book, do you know what I mean?
Oh, yes, I do. I certainly do. I've written two,
Yeah.
and I'm struggling with the third one, and apparently it's going to be, yeah, it's a long story, but yeah, it. I always say writing a book is not for the faint of heart, but I really believe that our stories need to be shared. I mean, doing it through podcasts is a great way of doing it, but to have
Mhm.
it a tangible, a book that someone can keep referring to that explains, your thought processes, the way that you work, and the way the world. It's a wonderful resource, I think, for people to have. And then, of
Yeah,
course,
for
there you are.
sure.
You've got your own book, and it's. Let me tell you something. The first time they send your copy of your book, and you open up that box, and you are holding a copy of your book, it's just a really weird feeling. It's incredible. It's like, oh my
Mhm.
gosh, I really did do that.
Yeah, I'm excited to get to that point, but I can't even see that point yet because I have to get through chapter 3. I mean, the first two chapters I breezed through, and then I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wait a minute, where am I going? What's the structure of
Mm-hmm.
this?
Yeah.
And so my third chapter, I decided I've complete changed directions. Chapter 3 is just going to be on programming, how we're
Mm-hmm.
programmed by design. But
Mm-hmm.
then I'm thinking, I don't have it a full chapter of that yet. Maybe I just need to write everything and then reorganize the chapters. I don't know. So I'm kind of in the middle of it. And today, we're just coming off the long Easter. It's, Easter weekend, and it's Tuesday morning here. And so I was going to start. I haven't written for about 2 or 3 weeks. So I'm like, okay, today's the day I'm going to start writing and try to finish chapter 3. But then I was
Mm-hmm.
thinking this morning as I was laying in bed, well, maybe I should write a different chapter and circle back. I don't. I'm just kind of all over the place, but it'll come together.
It will come together. I trust me, it will. There's something called storyboarding too that I heard
Oh
about,
yeah.
and I did
Hmm.
do some of that with my second book because I mean, I had a lot of stories in that book, but that second book came from COVID because I always knew I wanted to write that second book. But it was
Hmm.
like, well, okay, there's nothing else to do right now, so so you sit down and you do it. And anytime I would feel stuck or whatever, I would just yeah, just walk away, maybe, get on the ball. I use exercise balls a lot and just do something else just to clear my mind and not to perseverate on it so much.
Hmm.
But it
Yeah, and
happens. So,
I have a friend in San Francisco, a guy named Don, and he's kind of I meet with him once a month on Zoom, and we talk about my progress. He's kind of coaching me in the background, so to speak. So
hmm
he's been very helpful. And I think I'm due a call with him soon, so I got to get on. I got to have some more content. So,
yeah, interesting. I just had a call with my editor last week, and it had been like months since we had talked. And she was supposed to, the plan was, I had sent her my manuscript and she was going to start working. She was backed up and she was going to start looking at it and working on it like come December, January. And December and January's came around, and I'm here in this new house unpacking and trying to figure out the lay of the land and everything. It's like, I'm not going to reach out to her. I'm hoping she's going to forget about me. I just don't have the brain power right now. And so, we did have a long conversation. So I think I'm going to start working on it again come June or July. So
oh, nice. That's
we'll
good.
see. We'll see. It's it'll happen at when it's supposed to happen.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. No, for sure.
I do want you to let me know when it does get published, and we'll
Oh,
have you back
yeah.
on the show.
Yeah. We'll stay connected here, and
Okay.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. Great. Okay. So Herman, I do have, of course, all of your links and everything in the show notes already, and they're going to be there forever and ever, of course. But I really would like for you to tell the listeners, how they can get a hold of you, or how they can connect with you, where they can find you, any of the, social media links, or, anything that you want to promote, please, this
Hmm.
is your time.
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me is through my website, hermanpetrick.com. Through the contact page, just drop me an email. And I would offer anyone a free 15-minute consultation where we just have a conversation and I can explain what I would do specifically for you or, one of your loved ones, and just have that conversation on where we begin and what you would expect. That's the best way. I do have a YouTube channel that's not really, I don't use it as a promotional tool. It's more of a, when I do my work, I email the clients what I've done, like bullet point list. I'm more
Mm-hmm.
macro level, so not that detailed. And
Mm-hmm.
so a list of things, and everyone has the same questions. What does this mean? What is that? So I
Mm-hmm.
created a YouTube channel of what are soul ties, what are cord connections, what's a
Nice.
dark portal, and they're like 5 minute, 3 to 5 minute videos explaining what's what. And so you can go to my YouTube channel as well. It's, just search Herman Petrick on YouTube and it'll pop up.
Mm-hmm.
But it's if you want to hear some of the little things that I'm talking about. I think I even did a like kind of a podcast format on a dark portal, what it is and how they're created. It's about a 30-minute one. That's the longest one, but most of them are 5-minute videos. Um, you can go through the YouTube channel, but my
Mm-hmm.
website's the best way to get in contact with me.
Okay. And so now, before we sign off, do you have one or two final little pearls of wisdom that you might want to leave with the listeners? I mean, you've given us a lot of
Yeah,
information and explained a lot, so thank you very
yeah,
much for that.
yeah. The biggest thing would be really question your thoughts and your emotions. Question, the source where they're coming from, because we're not just because we have a thought or an emotion doesn't mean it's coming from us. And we're not defined by our thoughts and our emotions. And if you take time for yourself to work on your inner balance, like take 10 minutes a day and just sit in silence and focus on breathing in and out. That's the best way to separate yourself from your, excuse me, from your thoughts and your emotions. So that's the key. And keep in mind, everything needs to be in a constant flow. So if you have a thought and it's reoccurring, it's stuck. If
Okay.
you have an emotion that just keeps coming up, it's a stuck emotion. That stuff has to be processed. Think of a thought and an emotion as like the ocean, a wave crashing. It breaks, it
Mm-hmm.
rolls, and it rolls back. Well, if you're a surfer and you're out there, you're paddling and you're waiting for the right wave, you catch the wave and you ride it. Well, when it after it breaks, you can't continue to ride it. You have to paddle back out and catch the next wave. But
Mm-hmm.
not all the waves are the great waves. Sometimes they're bad waves, sometimes they're great waves, sometimes mediocre. But the point is, be like a surfer. Once the wave breaks and it rolls into the shore, go catch the next wave. It's a constant flow. It's
Mm-hmm.
impossible to ride the same wave over and over and over again. Keep in mind there'll be another wave that comes right behind it. It might
Mm-hmm.
take a few minutes, few days, whatever, but it's, you know, don't hold on to things for too long. It's think in terms of flow.
Mm-hmm.
But again, we're not our thoughts and our emotions. So if we can separate ourselves from them, it just helps us connect more to who we are.
Thank you so much for that. That was awesome. And thank you so much for being on the show. I've loved this conversation, and it's really fascinating information. And I can see, all kind of connections already just going off in my head and everything. And please do let me know when you write that book and publish it.
Yeah, sounds good. And I appreciate you having me on your show. It was a very easy conversation. So yeah, thank you.
Well, you did most of the work. All I did here was sit and ask a few questions. So thanks again, Herman. I really appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. Wow, what an interesting conversation. Do share this episode with everyone you know, especially if you know of people who might be struggling with anxiety, sleep disorders, anything that might seem like their energy is stuck because Herman is the guy who could really help them. And just remember, guard and our thoughts and our feelings and our emotions, and kind of guard them like a jealous lover. I don't know if that makes sense or not, but you really want to make sure that you do have your inner balance and that you are looking out for yourself, because it's a little crazy world out there. And we need to really be paying attention to our inner and our outer self. And that is the way of the FemiNinja.